Kidding. I will start. My name's Andrew Gardner. I work for the Hierarchy. I help employers with their recruitment, marketing, and advertising technology stack. And I've afforded me the opportunity to meet a lot of people like our esteemed panel, solving their problems. And so I'm really excited to moderate and facilitate this conversation because you're going to learn a lot. Okay, Erica, would you like to go?
You're muted.
Already the mute button. That's just the bane of my existence, it seems. I'm Erica Thorson-Gray. I am the head of talent acquisition for a company called LiveRamp. We are based in San Francisco, company of about 1,100 employees across the globe, and have been in recruiting for more years than I care to say out loud. But really am excited to be here and to answer whatever questions are out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Ashley?
Hi, I'm Ashley Malone. I am a recruiter for the corporate office of Applebee's and IHOP, and we are named Dine Brands Global. A lot of people don't know that, but the corporate office of Applebee's and IHOP. So we have a corporate office staff, just like any other office. Our IT department is our largest department, and we have an office in Glendale, California, and then in Kansas City, Missouri, and I am now located in Kansas City. So.
Okay. Juliet?
Hi, everyone. I'm Juliet Peniston. I head up recruiting for Roku. We're about 1,700 strong right now and are located in about 7 different offices across a few different countries. We're headquartered in San Jose. We actually just bought a beautiful headquarters campus there in San Jose that unfortunately we have not been able to use as much as we would have liked, but we will get back into it. But I'm actually based out of Austin, Texas.
Okay, thank you, Juliet. Brad?
Hi, everybody. Brad Cook. I work for a company called Intuitive Surgical. We're about a 7,200 person company globally, and we're a robotic surgery, less invasive care company. So I'm one of the leaders on the panel that has actually started a new company and a new industry during COVID. So I definitely have some different views of new industry, new company in the middle of COVID.
Great. Thank you, Brad. And that's actually a really good place to begin. So this will be our third panel. We did 2 of them yesterday. And I'd like to open it up and say, I've got to, as several of you know, I've got 2 college graduate kids that are kind of trying to find their way in the job market and their career search. And it's particularly interesting because, you know, there's no playbook for this COVID business. And so and anyone else that's changing jobs, to your point, Brad. So as a place to begin, what guidance or feedback do you have that would be valuable to someone not unlike my kids that are in the job market for the first time, or someone that's and we're going to get into the networking and LinkedIn profiles and resumes and all that stuff, but just kind of overarching, how particularly do you think if at all, the job search has changed, and why? And Brad, I'm going to start with you because I know you can handle the hard questions.
I guess I'm gonna tackle it from a recruiting perspective, and there's a lot of things that are going on in the industry right now that a lot of vendors have really stepped up. So my advice to anybody would be, don't waste the opportunity. You know, a friend of mine said, you know, how am I going to be a better person at the end of COVID than at the beginning? And I guess that'll be my career advice to anybody is, don't take this lightly. You've got opportunities. There's a lot of vendors, especially in the TA space, who are offering free training. Social Talent, Phenom, there's a lot of companies that are offering a lot of free things that they can improve their skills on already, even if they're not even in the workforce. That'd be the first place I would start with anybody not in the workplace today or wanting to look for some new skills to be able to get into the workplace in the future.
Juliet, do you have anything to add to that?
I would definitely second that. I think there are a lot of different sites now that you can do, and even companies such as so Roku. We are also doing helping people, giving them guidelines as to the interviewing through this COVID world. So kind of tips and tricks on that. as far as looking for and trying to get your name or resume in front of those companies, my suggestion is you've got LinkedIn, go out there. Every recruiter is on LinkedIn. If they're not, it's probably a huge problem. Go out and find a recruiter for a company that you're incredibly interested in, and send an email to that recruiter, connect with those folks. And so just be a little bit more bold than just waiting for your application, waiting to sift through the hundreds of resumes that they're going to sift through. I would just say, take a couple of different extra steps. And again, trying to get in front of them a little bit sooner by leveraging the technology that we have today.
And thanks, Julie. You raised an interesting point. This was kind of one of the minor controversies that came up on the earlier panels yesterday. Was I'm of the mind, hey, if you want, you've got to stand out, right? I've got the statistics here, and I'm sure it's close to this. 250 resumes per position or per rec, and recruiters spend an average of 7 seconds on, and that even sounds high. So how do you stand out in a formula like that? So I always encourage, and Phil from Zoom was on the call yesterday, and so he's getting 11 billion candidates a second that are unsolicited. So interesting challenge, but what I'm saying is, so what I always encourage people to do is kind of what you said, Julia, is, hey, don't rely on the system to get noticed and get recognized. If you know what you want to do, or even have an idea of what you want to do, figure it out, go after them, maybe bypass the system, find out who the hiring manager is, reach out to other people on LinkedIn, and go after them. So and Gail kind of I stepped on Gail's toes. She said, oh no, you don't want to bypass the system. You want to, so I'm thinking you should do it in parallel, but what are your thoughts on that, Erica?
I agree with you in the parallel part is sometimes bypassing the system. Your recruiters are going to point you back to the system because we need to keep everybody in the system so that we can track them appropriately, right? But if you can get your leg up and make a personal connection, whether it be with a recruiter, to Juliet's point, or with the hiring manager, it does give you that leg up. It puts a person in front of the resume, right? Resume, black and white, paper, just words. If you can actually communicate with somebody and talk to somebody, it puts your personality out there as well. So I absolutely endorse that.
Ashley, I know you probably have a lot of experience with that. What's your opinion?
I think definitely a parallel path your search, but I think also if you're going to connect with a recruiter, I would include a personal note. That always helps, a personal introduction. I have lots of people who just want to connect with me simply because I'm a recruiter, and I think, tell me why I should connect with you. So give me your story, and I think that's that'll draw more attention to you. So I know that may sound a little harsh, but just with everything going on, I think there's your opportunity, because once you're connected and we can start a conversation that way.
That's not harsh, Ashley. It's a great point, because I'm like you guys. What I love about these forums is it allows the people to meet your people too, as hard and as eager as they are to get a job or get connected to you or get traction in their search. You guys are equally motivated to find the right person. So it's not like, oh, I did this yesterday. It's like, oh, here's another one. I'll forget that. It's not like that at all. You guys are as passionate, as engaged, as motivated, and have the same end game. And so what I tell people is, yeah, personalize it. Make it, it's garbage in, garbage out. And it's not always going to pay off, but I'm sure all of you get lots and lots of connection requests on LinkedIn and solicitations, as do I. And I'm never not amazed. It's almost like just driving by somebody and waving. That's what a LinkedIn request is for me, versus, someone's pausing and saying, hey, I really want to have, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. What feedback do you guys have if you could talk? So let's presume that everybody that's listening is interested in either changing jobs or getting a job. They're struggling. I focus a lot of the panel's time, and David from Box said, hey, you're out, what about interviewing? And because I always think the interviewing, you gotta get to the interview first. So I always try to focus a lot of time on that. What didactic, practical guidance do you have for the people that are listening on ways that they can creatively strategically, effectively engage with you, whether it's in the confines of the ATS and the system or outside of it? And again, Brad, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I want to sort of tap on the previous conversation. I think Ashley said it. We want to be tracking in the system, and we want it to be personal. But I'd always, and I come back and say it wasn't harsh either. We want to know very quickly what we need to do to be able to take action. So if you have a request that you want to connect because of a job opportunity, do that. So I think be very front and center in your request. It drives me crazy when I get a request that looks for one reason and it's a vendor just trying to sell you something. Well, give me the opportunity to say, I'm not interested right now, then ask me to connect and then I have to tell you no. So that'll be the first thing. The second thing I always think about is reverse engineering how you're being found. Now, if you understand how a recruiter works and a recruiter thinks, they want to get from point A to point Z in the shortest possible time and get as many high-level candidates in that pipe. So your LinkedIn profile needs to look strong. You need to be thinking about your profile from an SEO perspective, a search engine optimization. How do you make sure that when a recruiter is in LinkedIn or doing Boolean or whatever, and they're putting keywords in that they're looking for someone like you pop up? There's another added complexity that we all have right now is we now have a lot of machine learning and AI technologies that are also going out there and not just looking for keywords, but correlating things like your title and your company. And if you had this title here, you probably have this skill over here. So there's a lot of correlations at a lot of systems. If you think about how to reverse engineer your search, then you'll appear a lot higher in a weighted average for recruiters, which means you appear so you bubble to the surface a lot more. So it's not a one-dimensional as it used to be. And I would absolutely go back to the point of leveraging your network. You know, at the moment, there's a lot of recruiting folks that are out of work. And I know probably 5 or 10 people that every time I see a need, I just blast it straight back out. So if you're looking for a job because you're out of work, make sure you're connected and you're talking to people that are like you, that if they're getting opportunities, they know you're looking, that they can flick them to you. I wish there was a platform, an easier platform, no one's invented it yet, that makes an easy, here's my network, here's the lead, I'm not interested, you have it. So I guess I'll throw it out to a whole lot of smart people in the room to go and figure it out.
You know, you make a really good point, Brad. I think people really do want to help. So the easier you make it for them to help, Ashley, you said it, Brad, you just said it, and I know Erica and Juliet, you would agree with that. So yeah, reaching into the network, shoulder tapping people that are always there. Another thing that came up, and I agree with it, so it sounds cliche, but I'm never not amazed when people don't, you know, you interview someone, they don't really know what they want, so maybe they spray and pray their resume or LinkedIn profile to jobs that aren't a fit, and it actually is not helpful. Because you got, you know, there is a system and you don't want to hire someone in the wrong capacity. So, and sometimes no is God's ultimate protection. But I think if people could be more intentional and strategic and have a goal or a plan in mind when they're doing, when they're pursuing a career with the company, it's harder, it takes longer, but I think the results are a lot more effective. Julia, what are your thoughts on, you know, resumes that aren't a fit, clogging up the system and candidate experience? What kind of insight would you give to the people that don't really have as much exposure to the inner workings of the system?
Yeah, I mean, I would say focus on the roles that you are, that you have the experience for, or that maybe want to gain experience with. And I would tailor your profiles to match what those roles are. The spray and pray, which I love, Andrew, I'm going to totally use that. It gets around. So, you know, recruiters are like, this person, you know, has basically spammed the system. We can see how many times you've applied for how many different roles. So that almost looks, and again, a little bit harsh, but it seems a little bit desperate. And so I think recruiters will then be a little bit, you know, hesitant to reach out to that person. So again, I would just be very selective. To Andrew's point, go for the role that you really want, go for the company that you really want, have kind of your checklist of things that are important to you before you go into any sort of situation or interview, and make sure that those roles you're going after, or the company that you're going after, that that you truly want it, you have the experience, or that your past experience can be leveraged for this. So I would just say be very selective, because we do notice when people are spamming us.
Yeah, and it ends up being, I think the people that do that end up shooting themselves in the foot, because it's an impediment. You all have certain, there's compliance issues, and people have to be treated with a certain measure, and you're I mean, that's the other thing I want everybody to know. I don't think a day goes by where you guys aren't hunched over your desk or your laptop trying to figure out a better way for candidates to have a better experience, or get back to people faster, or hire better people. I mean, you struggle with it all day long, and it's really unfortunate. Okay, well, so let's go. We've spent a lot of time on what to do, and I just touched on some things that you shouldn't do. Do you have what are some of the don'ts, the more practical don'ts that come to mind to you guys? And I'm going to pick on you, Ashley.
Somehow I knew you were going to pick on me. I would say, I think I even said this last year, please don't stalk me. Just, I'm a person too, and lots of messages, but I think, emailing, LinkedIn, and have patience, with some sort of 24-hour, if you haven't heard back from me, or just, even if I professional distance would be great. So, because I think that could have a bad tone and bad start. And, especially during the pandemic, I think as a recruiter, I'm very sensitive to, there are a lot of people looking for jobs, like you said, but also, personally, I was laid off twice in 3 years. So I understand, that being on the other side of the table. So I think, sometimes applicants forget we're people, and we've been on the other side of the table. And we're just trying to balance and manage all our parties, our hiring managers, our team, our coworkers, our business partners. So I think just having that respect of time.
That's a great point, and I'm guilty of that. I joke around like I'm a more is less person, unfortunately, and I just have so much to say, and I mean well, but I think you're right, Ashley. I think I think there's a perception, if I call her 20 times, on the 20th call she'll be excited. And no, it's one of the other panelists said there's a fine line between talking and stalking. I thought that was clever. Erica, Brad, do you have anything you want to add to the don't side of the house? Okay, well,
I think we didn't want to talk over each other. Go ahead, Brad.
No, off you go, Erica.
I was just going to agree with Ashley, is that the stalking, that may be an extreme word, but that's how it feels sometimes, right? Is it when you're getting the emails every 5-10 minutes, every few hours. We have, at least at LiveRamp, we have our phone numbers on our signatures, on our email signatures, and it's kind of a company standard, which can be a black hole also, right? Is that candidates then sometimes call, and when candidates call or leave emails, think about who is getting that email. Is that I get that people are frustrated, they're not getting jobs like they're hoping for, they see themselves as perfectly qualified. For no other way to put it, but shooting the messenger, is that the recruiters, many people on my team, are getting the phone calls of, I don't understand why I'm not getting the job. And it's escalating from there in a lot of nastygrams that we're getting. We want to help place as many people as possible, but unfortunately there's only so many jobs. And we, as the team, and I'm coaching my team towards this, is that we need to make sure that we're treating the candidates with respect. It needs to go vice versa, is because that will follow you. To Juliet's point earlier, is that when you blast out a ton of resumes, that will follow you. It will also follow you the response. And when you get the feedback of maybe not getting the job, how you take that and learn from it, rather than getting defensive and sometimes getting upset with a recruiter that may have been turning you down for a job. They might be able to help you down the road.
Good feedback. Brad?
Yeah, it's not what you know these days, it's who you know. And I think the thing that's compounding it right now is we're all writing the playbook as it happens. At the beginning of COVID, we're all in the same boat. We didn't know what was happening. We're all deciding what was shutting down, who was furloughing and stuff like that. Now, as parts of the country are opening up, and different companies are different parts of the process, that's also part of the thing that you just need to be aware of, that everyone is at a different place with a reopening, and not one. So you may be talking to one company versus another. One company may be further down their path of a reopening versus the next, which also then impacts the recruiter's workload. Companies will be going through deciding, are they ready to reopen? Are all the requisitions open that should be? There's just a lot of things that are still, I think, in churn on the back end for a lot of companies, that just being aware of that, it would be one thing. The second thing is, and it's probably easier for us recruiters because we know what to go and look for, but look for ways to find someone's email address. And if you can find someone's email address by sending it through LinkedIn, I believe you'll get a better response. I'm probably like everybody else. We get 100, 200 emails a day, and then we have another inbox called LinkedIn, and that's not really easy to manage. So expecting people to go from one to the other, if you can help and make it easy for us, then we can help make it easy for you, and then we can move people through so simply do a Google search on the person you're trying to find and email. You may find it, or you may find an email address of a company, then you see the syntax. Now you can reverse engineer. It'd be pretty easy to see brad.cook@intuitive.com, or, well, there you go, emails there. But a way to reverse engineer to be able to get someone in there, to get closer in the door, because LinkedIn's not in the door, but a personal corporate email address, which is why we're always looking for your email addresses when we're trying to look for you as talent. So,
that's a
walk
great
the shoes in
point.
the.
And that kind of aligns nicely with the how do you stand out? Because if you're in, I'm of the mind, and I know it's controversial, but the best job to apply for is the one that doesn't exist because there's no competition. And so getting a personal email address and personalizing the email to you and being empathic about it and saying, hey, Brad, I see that you like to build e-bikes. Me too. Actually, not really. I couldn't build never mind. And by the way, of the 100 emails that Brad gets, 15 of them are for me. So it's more like 85. I loved what you said, Erica, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but sometimes it gets replaced. And I know I've heard of cases where I didn't get the treatment and the reception that I so richly deserved, Erica. So I'm going to email your boss and tell. And boy, that's the quickest way to alienate yourself from a hiring manager or an HR person. So I'm in complete agreement with what you're saying. And I love how you guys are humanizing this. You are people too. I'll say it again. Sometimes no is God's ultimate protection. There's nothing where you guys know. And sometimes even though I'm a perfect fit. Well, actually, no, you're not, and there's some circumstances you're not aware of that are going to prevent you from being successful here. I'm actually doing you a favor, and they don't realize it. And so empathy is such an important piece of this, if you ask me. Okay, let's take a step back and move in a different direction and focus on, there's a lot of talk and opinion around what your LinkedIn profile should look like or say, or pictures and content, and should I put everything on there, should I keep it short, cover letters. One of the key takeaways yesterday that struck me was, because I get a lot, hey, should I put everything on my LinkedIn that I've done on my LinkedIn profile? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, why wouldn't you? But then it occurred to me, well, do I have 25 years of experience or 1 year of experience 25 times? So the takeaway was, don't focus so much on what you've done, although certainly put that on there, but what was the result? What was the accomplishment? But I'd love to hear each of your thoughts on the prototypical LinkedIn profile and communication. I'm of the mind less is more, which I already outed myself as a challenge. My kids say, Dad, you can stop saying long story short, because none of my stories are short. And that manifests itself in pretty much everything I do. Just quickly, Brad, I've heard that too. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. What's the take on that? It's not who you know, it's I'll have to come back to that. Well, let's stick with the profile and the LinkedIn stuff. Juliet, what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So kind of going back to what Brad was saying, a lot of companies now are leveraging AI tools to do several different things. First and foremost, it helps us funnel up candidates. So when we do talk about, we get hundreds of candidates every single day, it helps surface the profiles that, for lack of a better word, score better for the position that you're looking for. So And another thing it does is also scrapes the web to find people, profiles, resumes, whatever information they can, GitHubs, Stack Overflow, et cetera, and funnel those folks and serve those folks up to the recruiters. So I would say less is more, but you don't need to put every single job you've had, but I would definitely put the most relevant roles that you want to be attracted to, want companies to be attracted to. And those would be the ones I'd focus on. I would definitely make sure you include some, good buzzwords that most companies are going to be looking for in your profile. So again, because those will be filtered up, and then based on how many times you have those buzzwords or, kind of years of relevancy, that'll be funneled up closer to the top. And then, so I would, again, I would say put a little bit more, and then different groups, languages. I think that's a big thing. So if you are a German speaker, somehow tag yourself to, have that somewhere, because a lot of companies, we can't as recruiters source for that. And there are a lot of linguistic roles that high-tech companies are looking for, and even non-tech companies are looking for. And so having that somewhere where that, again, is going to get pulled in any search that you have, I think that would be something that you'd want to do as well.
Ashley, do you have a reaction to that?
I think that perfect. I agree completely. And I would also maybe, it's also nice on LinkedIn if you have volunteer or interest groups that you're in, if you're an active volunteer, because that's a great entry segue, and then a personal touch to really what you're passionate about besides your professional career.
Brad, I see you might want to weigh in.
Yeah, I'd want to add to, I think Julia made a great point about putting the extra things about language, but also if you're willing to relocate. Most applicant tracking systems don't allow you to say, I'm willing to relocate, but put it within your profile. And, I come back to search engine optimization. And if you don't understand how SEO works from a Google perspective, there's plenty of things on YouTube University that will tell you exactly how to SEO your profile and make sure, again, it's coming back to reverse engineering. I'm a recruiter, I'm looking for ABC skill set. And we usually start with either skills or titles, or we know companies that have those people that we want to hire from. That's how you stand out. And if you have I have the word talent acquisition executive or VP 11 times in my profile, everyone always finds me, because if someone's doing a VP talent acquisition, it's always going to bounce there. So if you're looking at any particular role, make sure you have those words. Don't do buzzword bingo and put 100 in there, because that's called black hatting. You'll get worse results for that. But just think about how you reverse engineer for recruiters to make it easy to find you. And that comes back to words and titles that are industry. If you go to things like Google Trends and you might call yourself a software engineer 3, well, maybe that's your internal title. But to a Microsoft or an Amazon or someone else, that is not what they call them. They're called a software engineer. So make sure you're putting words in there that are words that the industry uses for the type of role you're looking for, so you can be found.
Gosh, Brad, that's great. I'm glad you mentioned that. Esteemed participants, I learned this from Brad. He said, someone had reached out to me and asked me if I knew anyone good that would be a head of talent, and Brad was obviously taken, but I was talking to him about it. He said, well, Andrew, I put vice president of talent acquisition 15 or whatever, however many times in my LinkedIn profile, so it automatically pops up. That's brilliant. The only caveat is I would say to you, I would not rely on, there's hunters and there's gatherers. In other words, if I'm a Ruby on Rails programmer that has to be fluent in Mandarin and French with a condo in Belize, then you're probably going to have a hard time finding me. So you will have to search for me. But I would not rely. It's good to have all that stuff in your LinkedIn profile, but I would encourage participants that you take an active role in your career search as well. Okay, well, so how about?
I think Andrew, there's a good question that's come through. Is how do you keep updating your LinkedIn profile for a specific position when LinkedIn may not be up to date versus your resume? And I think that the answer to that be your LinkedIn profile in a lot of cases is the entrance way to your house. You're getting invited to come to the front door, and your resume allows us to decide whether we want to let you in the door or not. And so your LinkedIn profile is the first personal branding site that you have, because that's where recruiters live. Or if you have your resume up on certain other social sites, well, then recruiters may find it if they're doing like deep X-ray searches or Boolean searches and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't think a LinkedIn network needs to be your war and peace of your resume, but it needs to be your elevator pitch that's compelling for me to say, you know what, come through, I want to know more.
That's a great, thank you, Brad. I often say resumes don't get you jobs, they get you an interview, ideally. So you got to have it. And then there's a question in the chat about, okay, should I customize? So I'm gonna mention these two things and then ask you guys for your guidance. Question about, hey, should I customize my resume and or cover letter for each particular position? And my instinctive answer would be yes, why not? The better, if you can tailor your resume to the duties, requirements, qualifications to your resume really well in a kind of a, in haiku, let's say, I think that would be very compelling. So why wouldn't you do that? And then the other question that came up specifically about LinkedIn profiles are, there's gaps. And I'm always of the mind, hey, gaps are okay. Just explain. Phil from Zoom yesterday said, hey, I love the gaps because that's where the magic is. He was talking about how Bev, you probably remember better than me, but in one of his gaps, he went on a trip and went to the Grand Canyon and spent a week building bomas with his son. And it was very productive and a conversation starter. Or as obviously the case, sometimes you're taking care of elderly parents. There's no shame in having gaps. Just have a good answer, and by all means, don't make stuff up. Oh yeah, I was busy, in astronaut training. I think you just be straight and be authentic. What are your thoughts on that, Juliet?
I totally agree. I mean, again, have your story, share that story back. Don't make anything up. And in a lot of cases, they make a lot of sense, and it's perfectly fine. And so, recruiters definitely know how to get information. Recruiters and also hiring managers know how to get some information. So again, be very honest and open about, even if it was that you were laid off and you took some time off and you did these things, that's a great conversation to have. And quite frankly, you're not the only one doing it. So a lot of people are doing it, and just know that that's not going to limit yourself from these roles.
Erica, did you want to pile on or say anything?
I was agreeing immensely, is that almost everybody, and maybe everybody on this call right now, has been part of either a downsizing or a reduction in force, whatever it may be. So before, there was a stigma between gaps in employment, not anymore. And to your point, Andrew, is that that's where some pretty neat stuff happens, where it may not be in the workforce where you're getting paid to do it, but it could be volunteerism. It could be something that you've done that really adds value to what you could bring to a company. So I find it super important to be able to talk through those points.
And Brad, I saw your eyes flash. Did you want to weigh in too, or just agree?
The thought's gone. I had an idea, but yeah, thought's gone.
Right.
It might come back.
Okay,
later.
well, good news is I have lots more to say. So let's talk about that, because I'm of the mind that when I look at someone's profile that I want to connect with, or I'm considering doing business, even if it's a vendor, just someone I'm always equally, if not more interested. What are their hobbies? What are they passionate about? What drives them? What's their why? Those sorts of things. There was a little bit of controversy. I was surprised because I think that's a really good way to engage with someone instead of going right for the meat of the meeting. Why not see? And it oftentimes leads to more interesting conversation, and you're able to connect and partner with people on a let's say calmer, easier level than going right for the straight interview stuff. To the extent, I think Gail used the word pander. Should I pander to someone's LinkedIn profile? So what are your thoughts on that, Ashley?
Okay, and I'm sorry, my boss was texting me. So
No problem. It happens. My question was, if I see that you are interested in 4-H and fostering puppies, and I love Labradors, is it okay for me to kind of adjust my communication and inquiry and reach out to you along the lines, even if it's not 1000% true? What are your thoughts on me trying to connect with you, off the meat of the, hey, can I work here or not?
well, we're all people at the end of the day. So, I mean, as far as, making that connection, if that's your entryway, but I think that does raise a little bit of a red flag for me to kind of you're manipulating or maybe taking advantage of the situation. So, that's kind of, I wouldn't really appreciate that. I'd rather someone just be fully transparent because, I get paid to have really transparent conversations with people. So let's just, be transparent and what are your true intentions?
That's good feedback. So if it's legit, okay, but if it's not, yeah. And I wasn't suggesting you make stuff up, but I do think it's a really good way to bond with people. And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I'm sure the participants can relate. Sometimes we get nervous. We're not sure what to say. If I can talk about something that I'm confident and passionate about before and which leads me to my next point. I think one of the things that a lot of candidates or job seekers struggle with is the ability to advocate for themselves. It's not something you're taught in school. I see that in my kids. And so I think, again, back to the comment about knowing what you want to do, being declarative, like what you said, Ashley, being transparent, like this is what I really want, this is what I really think, and just putting it out there so that you can connect with that person authentically is super important. And you have to get better at advocating for yourself and asking for what you want versus kind of this pandemic has forced us to kind of perpetuate. I'm sure it was being done before the pandemic, is just sit at home and cut and paste my resume to 20 jobs and sit and wait for you guys to reply. And I just don't think that happens. And then if heaven forbid, if someone does say no, it's like, oh man, I'm a loser. I didn't do that right. And make it about me. So I'll make a question out of all of that. One of the things I've noticed is when candidates are trying to engage with employers, they're so convicted and, hey, I'm amazing. I can laugh. I can cry. Who do you want me to be? I can be that person. And it's not, how do I say this? It's my enthusiasm and my rigor sometimes doesn't always mesh. And so I guess what I'm asking you is, where do you guys draw the line on advocating for myself versus being super direct? I mean, where's that balance for you guys, or if there is a balance? Brad?
Let me jump on that, because there's a couple of things that you talked on, and it comes back to being authentic, and it comes back to the word an overinflation. Don't overinflate something about your resume in hope that it's going to get someone's attention, because it will very quickly get you to the first step, but through that first screen, you're likely to get bounced out. So that would be the first thing. The way you can address that through your resume is really focusing on what you've accomplished versus what your responsibilities were. You can have any responsibilities, doesn't mean you did them well, but I'm looking in past behaviors, because we all do behavioral interviewing. I'm looking at your past behaviors as a predictor of your future performance. And if I can see you've been someone that is action-oriented and authentic, or whatever that you've done that shows up in your accomplishments, I think you'll get a better response from recruiters to say, here's what I've accomplished during that role I did, than just saying, here was my responsibilities. So it comes back to a few of the things you just touched on.
Okay, and the other thing I meant to say, and I don't think I did a very good job, was I think I mean well, and I'm so passionate, and I kind of mean me. I think sometimes I lose traction by not being more empathic and considering what you just said. What's the best way for me to articulate it to you? And you just said it. So that was a really big point. If you're listening, is don't focus so much on what you did, but what was the takeaway? What was the result? What was the accomplishment? Because it's not so much the job title, or it's like, what was the net result, and was it compelling, or is it compelling? And that leads into it. There's a question in the chat about, hey, I was and I'm making this up, but it's not unlike this. I was a hairdresser, and then I was, an astronaut, and then I was a doctor for a few years, and then I decided to, join the Peace Corps, and now I want to write code for you. What do you do if you've got a broad range of skills and experience on your profile, and there are some good results or accomplishments, but there's a breadth that's almost like too much? How do you, I know you're all going to say it just depends. Juliet, what are your thoughts on that?
Wow, thanks for that one. I would say again, kind of goes back to focus on the role that you're looking for. That would be kind of that experience I would have at the top of your resume. And any of those additional things, which are great ads, because maybe you never know that the job they're looking for is somebody who's a talent acquisition leader, but they want somebody with a strong compensation background or something like that. So I would continue to add those in there. I think I wouldn't be super, off the beaten path. I would try to kind of keep it maybe something, that would be, of like roles or in a similar organization, things like that. But I do know that, that having those additional things of what you've done or, other experiences is great, because it could, very well, especially in smaller companies, it's like, we need a jack of all trades. We need somebody who can do this and they can do this. And so a lot of times maybe that's not our focus, but it would be really nice to have on the back end. And so again, I would put your primary key experience up top, and any of those additional that match the role, and any of those additional things I would just have down below, and some probably a little bit more talking points.
That was a really good answer, Juliet, and it aligns nicely with what everyone else has said about being authentic, telling the truth. Brad's thing about, hey, have a slug line at the top that just captures the essence or gets my attention, and then we can have the conversation. Well, why were you an astronaut and decided to be a doctor?
Andrew,
let me jump. Sorry, Bev, go on.
I was just going to say couple things bubbled up in chat during that last point regarding keeping your resume in chronological order or making it reflect the job you're applying for if that pushes it out of order.
Well, Brad, we can ask it. Go ahead and answer the question, Brad, and I'll respond to that, Bev. Thank you.
I want to jump on something that Juliet said, and it is a theme as I sort of read through some of the chats. You've got to help yourself target your search, not us. We've got a certain role we're looking to fill, and if your experiences are way too broad, you're putting the burden on us to find the right fit for you, versus you be a little bit more targeted, especially if you have got a very diverse background, to target that in. So you do need to start getting to the pointy end and not being so broad. That's pretty important. And then some of the other things, I'm going to come back to the interviewing, and I sort of mentioned it before. There's a reference that we use in the industry called STAR model: situation, task, action, result. So if I'm asking you an interview question, tell me a time when, your reply should be, here was a situational task that I did, here's the action I took, and here's the result I got from it. So in one, literally, hopefully 1 minute response, you get the problem, how you tackled it, and the result you got from it. And if any role you want to go into, if you follow that same STAR methodology, you can Google it. There's plenty of things up there will teach you. You'll be able to put your best foot forward in the interview to then stand out from the next person. Because the last thing we want to hear is 30 minutes of diatribe of not really getting to what you really did. And it's just hearing the voice, but we didn't get to the point, which means then we have to unwrap the onion skin and go deeper. Andrew made a point before about how you promote yourself. You hopefully will hear from interviewers asking the question, did you do that, or did the team do that? And be very honest. If you are part of a team, because we'll be looking for what you did specifically versus the team. You could have been a key member of the team, but talk to what you did in a team spirit that still puts you forward authentically, as well as here's what I did, here's how I applied the STAR model of what I did on that team. It just puts you in a much stronger light with the interview on the other side.
That again, if you're listening, write that down. When were you going to tell me that, Brad? No wonder I never got any jobs in my 30s and 40s. That's terrible. Someone should have told me that, because I think I did a lot of rumbling and stumbling and talking for 30 minutes and not making a point, kind of like I'm doing right now. Okay, so let's get back to the stuff. Hey, one of the things that came up is like just it's a great segue, Brad, is what can I do to improve so maybe I'm not working right now. I think it was David from Box yesterday said, well, there's a ton of stuff you can do to up your game. You can read a book, you can volunteer, you can, ostensibly, we've all had to take jobs that we didn't really love or were passionate about because like all roads lead to Rome. I remember wanting to work for an advertising agency, and I remember saying, well, I'll do, I eating my own dog food. I was very persistent, and God, it's a great story. I'm not going to waste the time here to do it, but it didn't pay off. But the point is sometimes you shouldn't be doing nothing is my point. There's tons of available resources, Coursera, Udemy. There's just a lot of stuff you can do, certifications to up your game while you're, looking for your job that will enhance your profile. And I think that's reflected, if you can't tell, listening to these esteemed panelists talk about, they really want to hire you or the right person. And they have to have a business case for it. And your challenge is to create. I love the structure and the framework around the STAR modeling or interviewing, Brad, because it does force me to be more focused and more, and I think that's another thing. I'm just going to come back to it one more time. You guys are humans too, and you're just trying to hire the right people. So you're not career coaches. I mean, I can't tell you, it happens to me a lot. So I can only imagine how much it happens to you, where someone, comes in and it's like, okay, well, so what do you want to do? Or what are you good at? And then 15 minutes later, I'm still talking about nothing. So that's super important, to have a direction, to have a goal, to have and if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. I think it's all about the action. Okay, let's shift. We've only got about 15 minutes left. So let's spend some time talking about interviewing. Brad, since you brought it up. So now it's all shifted to video interviewing. What are some kind of blocking and tackling best, etiquette or hygiene with video interviewing that you can recommend? And Erica, you've been let's hear from you. What are some suggestions you have for, okay, I've gotten past all the stuff and now I have an interview with Brad. I'm intimidated. What should I and shouldn't do?
Yeah, it's much the same as in-person interviewing, right? With the exception of, you need to make sure you know the technologies that you're using. One thing that we've done with our candidates is we've added in a 15-minute prep call a day or two before the what we're calling still an on-site interview, but it's a virtual BlueJeans Zoom interview. So we can go over all of the technologies. We use BlueJeans rather than Zoom. Not many people know how to use BlueJeans. And we're also asking candidates to give presentations in some instances. Do they know how to screen share, right? So practicing all of that, making sure that you know how to navigate the tools. We're asking some of our engineering candidates to whiteboard, right? So they need to make sure that they have their iPad ready and they know how to use the tools appropriately. That would be my biggest recommendation, is sitting down and taking the time to know, is your headset working? Is your video camera working? Does your background look okay, right? Is that you don't have all this stuff in the background? Make sure that the interviewers focus on you, not about your surroundings, right? Or that you're failing to have your BlueJeans work. That unfortunately can stick in a hiring manager or an interviewer's mind, is that, oh, they couldn't make the technology work. Is that really going to be a good fit? Shame on the hiring manager or the interviewer for actually doing that, but it does, unfortunately, it can cloud some things. So preparation is absolutely key.
That's a good start. I would love to hear more from Juliet.
Sure. So a great snap camera filter is always something I advise. So I love the one that I have here, Summer Light. Also, I would say, you're not in person. And so I would say, it's a little bit more difficult to hear somebody's passion or really see somebody's passion over video. So like I do, because I'm Italian, use your hands, just show that passion, put that expression in your face. I think that is definitely going to be key. Again, because we're losing that kind of in-person handshake and face-to-face experience. you've got to be able to share that same passion and excitement, and just kind of show your true self through videos. So again, don't have your hands down. I would use your hands. I would smile. I would just use your voice and your different tones and stuff. So this would be my advice. And again, can't beat the Snapchat filters. Great way to not to have to wear makeup in the morning. It's perfect.
Brad, would you like to weigh in? I think you always have some good stuff around best practices for interviewing. I mean, what are things you look for, right, wrong, or indifferent, that are signals for positive or negative?
Well, I think I want to sort of go back to the point. Just understand your technology and use it. If you know you're getting an interview schedule and it's a technology you haven't used, ask the coordinator if you can do a 5-minute check-in. Make sure all your things work. I think that's pretty critical, because I hate to think that it is, but what Erica said, but it's true. We as a company give a document to managers to say, here's what you need to think about, and we also give the same thing to candidates. And it was a direct rip-off from Phil at Zoom. So we plagiarize stuff, absolutely, but it's a way to teach managers to be authentic on here, as well as candidates to be authentic. There was a question that came up about, but I've got kids in the background. You know what? If your kids are there, be authentic. I would rather be talking to someone that's not overly worried about, you know what, my dog just jumped on the table. Okay, it is what it is, and just play it off and make a joke of it. There was another call I've been on, other ones where, we sort of talked about, bring your kid in and let's have a look, have a chat. And she felt opposite. She felt more pressure by doing that. So just play with the person you're interviewing with, but we're all human. We're all dealing with this differently. We all have different life situations. And I think being on the most authentic person you can be, that's what people are looking for, because that's what we're looking for you as a potential hire, is what you bring to the table to make us better tomorrow than we are today.
That's what a great point. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I mean, my intention is, sometimes when I'm super eager or, I have an expectation, and I want to create circumstances that are going to engender the outcome that I want, and I'll turn myself inside out. And if I cross that line and it becomes inauthentic, then in essence, I'm doing myself and you a disservice by projecting something that's not. But I love all the commonsensical stuff. Some of the stuff I heard, having your camera on, I know that's like, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but, having the camera on is a great start, and just practicing. Early's on time too. Bev and I were on you guys would laugh because it was, and I've learned to embrace challenges, especially technological challenges, because I always learn something, right? What's the lesson? But the chat wasn't working. The muting wasn't working. The link on the agenda wasn't working. And it was like 10:15. And this was yesterday. We figured it out and got it. But I think a couple of the tips I have are practicing. Just practice, even if it's just with your kid or somebody, one of your friends. I interviewed my son the other day, and he did terribly. And I didn't ask him any tough questions. And he was like, wow, because it was a little bit, tell me about a time, that you did something that really. And he kind of like, okay, well, he wanted to break character. No, we're role playing, stay in character. He's like, well, no, I don't feel, no. So it's like, it's like a muscle. It's like what you said, Brad. The other thing I thought was really cool was watch a really funny, smiling, obviously, watch a really funny YouTube video or a prank video that just gets you in a good mood or happy. I think, Juliet, you answered it really well, so that you're kind of on energy. Right? Energy doesn't lie. So if you're in a good frame of mind and you're happy, it will come across. And that's always a great place to start. Okay, well, so we've got 5 minutes left. And I think we've covered, one other thing, just on the interviewing thing that Phil nailed. Oh, actually, I forget who it was. Bev would know. Bev knows everything. Was be curious. And all the panelists, there's a lot of this, like, be curious. Don't, like, if Phil's comment was, hey, if you're curious, if you're asking me questions, it lets me know that you're engaged. It lets me know that you care. It lets me know that, that you have a level of interest that is above and beyond just the yes, no. And so I thought that was, and again, you can't manufacture curiosity, but if you are curious and you ask questions, I think you create, it signals to the interviewer that you are interested, and not only do you have the aptitude, but you're curious above and beyond just the basics. So that was good feedback. But back to the 5-minute warning. So now what I'd like to do is just go around to each of the esteemed panelists and have you say if you could only say one thing, 2 at the most, that you wisdom, guidance, some sort of your one thing, if you could only tell the people listening one thing that they should bear in mind as they move through on their career search, what is that piece of advice? And then also, how they can get in touch with you. And I'm going to put this caveat out now because I didn't do it yesterday. If you do reach out to the panelists or to me, don't say, hey, I saw you on the Witty panel and you were amazing. And I mean, give it some character, not just because, again, I mean, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And that's not just my opinion, but there's so much research around the fact that supports the likelihood of people responding favorably. If you want help, clearly they want to help. They just donated an hour of their time. Okay, so your one thing of advice, and then how people can connect with you after this. And I think I'm going to start with Ashley.
I knew it. I would say patience, and things really do always work out how they're supposed to work out. But when you're going through the fire, it's hard to see that light, but it will work out. And just be patient with yourself, and then be patient with others that you're connecting with, dealing with everyday life. So that would be my one word. And, that's hard for a recruiter to have one word, Andrew.
Well, one thought. It doesn't have to be a word, but that's a good answer. And I happen to agree with you. It's more of a thought or an approach or a belief. How about that? A belief. It's just, I mean, and that's a great one. You just said a lot of stuff. And
I just have to add, because as far as background, so my degree is in criminology and Spanish, and I worked at the police department for 5 years out of college, I tested with the FBI, and now I work in HR. So life kind of, you never know about people's diverse backgrounds. But yes, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anyone, but please just send me a note that you were part of the panel on Witty.
Be intentional.
Intentional,
okay.
Yes.
Erica, let's hear from you.
My one word is actually sitting right behind me, and this was totally not intentional. My artwork sits back there all day long. So it really is be fearless in your job search. It's scary, and I get that it's scary. I've been in the same boat before, right? I've been on the other side of the desk. But be as fearless as you can. Go out there, present yourself, and put your best foot forward. Do it fearlessly. As for getting in touch with me, same as Ashley is, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Let me know that we connected on the Witty conference, but happy to help with people's career search.
Ooh, I like that answer. So we've got patient and fearless. Okay, Juliet, how about we hear from you?
Sure. So mine would be research. Know the company that you're going after. And, don't ask questions that you can find on the web. Maybe ask questions about things that you found on the web or about the company and news. Great places to look is actual company website. Go to their investor relations page or their partner pages. Some companies will post use cases. Go read the use cases. It's really actually, fun stuff to kind of hear what the technology can do, whether it's, for the good of mankind or solving some sort of big business issues. So just know that, and that's the way to stand out. So once you get that interview, you can absolutely stand out by really knowing your stuff about the company, and then asking really thoughtful questions and being, again, kind of going back to it, Philip was saying, be curious, right? So ask questions kind of regarding the research so they know you did your homework, they know you're very interested, and that you're asking really good questions.
God, we're 3 for 3. Boy, Brad, there's not a lot of meat left on this
No
bone.
pressure.
What are you gonna? Let's put a
No
bow on it,
pressure.
big man.
I'm going to come back to the word accountability and be accountable to do your research, as I said before, but to see what's out there. I'm going to give a shameless plug. If there's any recruiters on this call, recruiters, recruiting, recruiters.com funny name, Serious Mission, was created because of a conversation like this, where CVS was needing to hire 50,000 people and Hilton needed to let go 50,000 people. And then after a bottle of wine, a few of us got on a call and went, how do we connect people together? So literally on a Friday night after a bottle of wine, a few of us got together and went, how can we solve this problem? A whole lot of vendors, we got together and we solved it. We launched that website. And now there's, as of yesterday, there's like nearly 200 recruiter jobs up there. There's 742 recruiters in the system. That's just one industry. That's just recruiters trying to help recruiters get back into the work, because we believe if we can get recruiters back into the game, the industry is going to get back into the game. I have to believe there's other people out there in different industries that have all had those same thoughts of how do we help people get back in. But it comes back to accountability for me, going and trying hunting them down and finding them, because I'm sure they're out there. And as I think the world's becoming a much more compassionate place because of COVID, I think there's a lot of people out there all trying to help each other. You've just got to find them. And then, yeah, someone pings me, that's the first thing I point them to is recruiters.com. And hopefully that pays off in the future, where a handful of recruiters can get a job and get back to marketplace. I'm sure it's out there for you as well somewhere.
That's not a shameless plug. Bev just popped it into the chat. You should check it out. It's actually a really good idea. And so those were really good answers, you guys. I would add action to that. It just aligns nicely with everything you guys said. Like, we all have a strategy. It's that famous, I think it was Tony Robbins or maybe Mel Robbins. It's like, okay, who wants to lose weight and be in better shape? And everybody raises their hand. Okay, who does not know how to do that? Please leave your hand up. And it's like, okay, so we can have the best strategy in the world and the best intentions and goals, but if we don't do the footwork or we don't do the action, we're not going to get the results. And the action drives results. So action, action, action. And I just loved what you guys did. You guys did a really amazing job. And I want to thank you each for taking so much time out of your day to be so helpful and gracious. And thank you for letting these people figure out how to reach out to you. You can catch me on, actually, you know what, I'm going to just, you can find me on LinkedIn, but my email address is andrew@thehierkey, THEHIREKEY.com. But like all the other panelists, please have a story, have something. Just don't make it because if you want to connect, let's connect, but let's have a plan. Okay. I think that's it. Everybody, thank you so much. This has been recorded, so they'll be putting it up on Witty. I want to thank the panelists again. Thanks, Bev, for managing the chat, and everybody have a great day.